Part I. The Setup. The Age of Ice and Paranoia. Target 8,000 words. Chapter 1 through 2. The Innocent Front, 1958 through 1960. Introduce Camp Century, the officially stated U.S. Army research base built under the Greenland ice sheet, a city powered by a nuclear reactor. It is presented as an innocent scientific project studying glacial movement. Introduce the main protagonist, a young, idealistic American Navy engineer, e.g. Lieutenant Commander Elias Vance. Chapter 3 through 4. The Real Mission. Reveal the secret truth. Project Iceworm. The purpose is to build a massive, mobile network of missile silos, 14,000 miles of tunnels, capable of striking the USSR. The focus is on the impossible engineering challenge and the psychological toll of living beneath the ice. Chapter 5 through 6. The Unspoken Orders. The true, deeper secret. The existence of a secondary, highly classified operation tied to Camp Century that involves deep-sea Arctic surveillance. Introduce the antagonistic force, a brilliant, paranoid Soviet submarine captain operating under the ice. Inciting incident. An American nuclear submarine, USS Triton, on an Arctic deep dive surveillance mission, detects an anomaly far from Camp Century, a Soviet hydrophone network, indicating a major security breach. Vance is reassigned from the Camp Century team to a covert team based in Thule, tasked with investigating the anomaly without exposing Iceworm. Part 2. The Descent. Tunneling to the Truth. Target 12,000 words. Chapter 7 through 10. Beneath the Ice Sheet. Detailed, informative exploration of the technical and logistical nightmares of Camp Century and the tunneling process. The environment is the enemy, shifting ice, structural integrity failure, and deep psychological isolation. Vance and his small naval team must access abandoned, deeper tunnels near Camp Century to deploy specialized listening equipment. Chapter 11 through 14. The Soviet Counterplay. POV switch to the Soviet captain. Detailed descriptions of their underwater surveillance strategy, a high-risk game of cat and mouse under the polar ice cap. The Soviets know the U.S. is hiding something, but haven't pinpointed Iceworm. They are searching for the reactor signature. Chapter 15 through 18. Discovery and Collapse. Vance's team discovers that the Soviets have developed a way to track the unique acoustic signature of Camp Century's PM-2A nuclear reactor. The U.S. realizes Iceworm is compromised. Simultaneously, the shifting glacier begins to crush parts of the base. The base starts its inevitable, horrifying collapse, a historically accurate event dramatized here. Part 3. The Climax. Operation Icebreak. Target 12,000 words. Chapter 19 through 22. The Scramble for Evidence. The U.S. command realizes they must abandon Iceworm and Camp Century, but they cannot let the Soviets discover the technology or the scale of the plan. Vance is given the terrifying mission: salvage or destroy all evidence related to the missile plan and the reactor before the ice swallows everything, all while secretly deploying a final critical listening device. Chapter 23 through 26. The Submarine Duel. The Soviet submarine closes in on the general location of the Camp Century disaster, believing they can capture key personnel or technology. A tense, silent underwater confrontation erupts between a U.S. nuclear submarine sent as a rescue or cover force and the Soviet vessel. Focus on sonar operators, thermal layers, and the unique physics of Arctic acoustics. Chapter 27 through 30. Sacrifice and Escape. Vance's team is trapped in the collapsing tunnels. They successfully destroy the most sensitive documents and secure the final surveillance device. A harrowing escape across the cracked, shifting ice surface. The defining moment of heroism. A sacrifice is made to ensure the key surveillance data makes it out. Part 4. The Aftermath and Legacy. The Buried Secret. Target 8,000 words. Chapter 31 through 34. The Deception. The official narrative is crafted. Camp Century was a purely scientific endeavor shut down due to unstable ice. The U.S. successfully uses the collapse to mask the true intent of Iceworm. The narrative follows Vance dealing with the emotional and physical trauma bound by a lifetime of absolute secrecy. Chapter 35 through 38, The Environmental Ghost. Fast forward to the present day, early 21st century. Climate change and glacial melt are accelerating. The focus shifts to the true cost of Iceworm, the tons of radioactive waste and biological contaminants, 200,000 liters of diesel fuel, PCBs, etc., buried deep in the ice, now threatening to emerge into the environment. Epilogue: The Files and the Future. Vance, now an elderly, decorated veteran, finally sees a partial declassification of the files. The story concludes by connecting the Cold War paranoia of the 1960s to the modern environmental and geopolitical challenges in the Arctic, driven by the race for resources now that the ice is retreating. Writing Let's begin. The opening. I will now generate the first part of the manuscript, setting the scene for the amazing world beneath the ice. Project Iceworm's Shadow. Part 1. The Setup. The Age of Ice and Paranoia. Chapter 1, The Innocent Front. Greenland Ice Sheet, 1960. The cold was not a temperature, it was a physical opponent. It had mass, it had motive, and it possessed a singular, crushing will to stop the human heart. Lieutenant Commander Elias Vance, a 28-year-old structural engineer from Akron, Ohio, braced his shoulders against the wind, feeling the cold's fist drive through his heavy wool parka and deep into his bones. Above him, the sky was a brutal, infinite sheet of white, reflecting off the glacial surface that stretched, featureless, in all directions. It was a landscape of pure, lethal geometry. Vance stood on the edge of the world's most peculiar city, Camp Century. Officially, it was the United States Army's pride, a scientific marvel, a permanent research station built entirely beneath the surface of the Greenland ice sheet, 138 miles east of Thule Air Base. Its purpose, the press releases proudly declared, was to study the dynamics of the polar ice cap and test construction methods for missile bases in the event of future warfare. But Vance knew that was the public front. The reality was 8,000 tons of steel and snow, a network of trenches 26 feet deep and 100 feet long, housing 200 men who lived in a 68-degree Fahrenheit bubble, powered by the world's first mobile military nuclear reactor, the PM-2A. Vance slid his goggles over his face, obscuring the brief, weak Arctic sun. The PM-2A was the heart of the camp, humming with an almost musical intensity. He descended the reinforced steel staircase that led from the surface entrance, a small, insulated dome known as the snow house, to the main communication trenches below. The transformation was immediate and jarring. The howling wind was replaced by the low, continuous rumble of ventilation fans and the omnipresent electric thrum of the reactor. The world below the ice was not sterile white. It was a labyrinth of shadows and secrets. The snow walls were compacted and rigid, covered in corrugated steel arches that gleamed under fluorescent lights. The trenches housed barracks, mess halls, a library, a chapel, a movie theater, and even a small barber shop. It was a subterranean American suburb, complete with the smell of institutional coffee and diesel exhaust fumes. Vance's official task was to monitor the closure rate of the trenches. Ice, he knew, was not static. It was a flowing, viscous solid. Every hour, every day, the 4,500 feet of ice above them exerted tremendous pressure, forcing the walls inward, demanding constant re-excavation. He used sophisticated laser equipment to measure the millimeters the trenches closed each week, a constant, silent, ticking clock counting down to the base's eventual doom. But Vance's true focus, known only to a handful of men at Thule and a general in Washington, lay deeper. He walked past the main residential areas, the noise and camaraderie fading, until he reached a heavily guarded, unmarked door near the reactor trench.
This door led to the South Extension Tunnel, a newly completed segment built entirely by a specialized team under an even tighter veil of secrecy. He typed in a complex sequence on the coded lock. The heavy steel door hissed open, releasing a blast of cold, dry air. This was not Camp Century, the innocent science base. This was the entrance to Project Iceworm. This was the beginning of the end of the Cold War.